As the clock ticked past 6 in the evening, David arrived at his city villa. The sky was a canvas of deepening hues, the sun's last rays casting a golden glow over the grand entrance. David's face lit up with anticipation as he stepped out of his car. The air held a hint of the day's warmth, now gently giving way to the coolness of the approaching night. Inside, Chanty was a picture of poise, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nerves. She heard David's footsteps approaching and turned to see him entering with a warm smile. He carried large, signature paper bags, each meticulously packed and exuding an air of sophistication. As he handed them to Lorena, he explained that the contents were meant for Chanty to wear at the upcoming investors' meeting. Shanta's eyes widened with appreciation as she took in David's thoughtful gesture. She had already prepared an outfit for the event, but knowing that David had gone to such lengths to ensure she looked perfect, touched her deeply. The wardrobe he provided came directly from a stylist, carefully chosen to complement her physique. David had shown the stylist a full-body picture of Chanty, ensuring that the chosen attire would enhance her presence. He also informed her that early the next morning, someone would arrive to assist her in getting ready for the special event. The evening unfolded slowly, each moment savored like a fine wine. As the sky outside darkened, the villa's dining room began to glow softly with the lights. The atmosphere was warm and intimate, wrapping everyone in a cocoon of comfort and ease. Chanty felt a surge of joy upon seeing Laura, David's longtime cook, bustling about with a welcoming smile. The table was set with exquisite care, and they all sat down together, Chanty, David, Jake, and Lorena, forming a small but close-knit group. Dinner was a leisurely affair, the conversation flowing naturally as they enjoyed Laura's culinary creations. Each dish was a testament to her skill and love for cooking, filling the room with rich, inviting aromas. David took a moment to mention that someone else would join them later that night, though he was unsure of the exact time. He then turned to Chanty, his expression serious yet gentle, and apologized for not informing her sooner about the investors' meeting. The investors had requested the meeting suddenly, wanting to meet Chanty in person after the death of Don Lorenzo to ensure the security of their investments. David had swiftly organized the event to align with their plans. After dinner, the evening took on a more focused tone. Chanty and David moved to the study, a room lined with dark wood and leather-bound books, where the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and polished furniture. They delved into their discussions, the only sounds being the soft rustle of papers and the occasional murmur of voices, presenting various important documents and reports related to their businesses. Chanty was taken aback to discover her father's extensive investments in condominiums and business centers in the city. David explained that early the next morning, Chanty's family lawyers and his attorney would arrive to discuss these investments in detail. Chanty had always believed that their business was limited to vineyards. The revelation that her father had investments in gasoline stations in their city and neighboring areas, as well as extensive mining lands, was astonishing. She wondered why her father had kept these projects a secret from her. David, too, was surprised by Don Lorenzo's silence on these matters. All the investments were now under Chanty's name, and their family lawyer would explain everything the following day. As the night deepened, the villa's ambience grew even more serene. Chanty realized that her journey was just beginning, with mysteries unraveling before her eyes, and a future she had yet to fully grasp. Each revelation felt like a piece of a complex puzzle, slowly coming together to form a picture she was only beginning to understand. After their discussion about the documents, Chanty found herself unable to sleep. She lay in bed, her mind racing with thoughts of her father's immense wealth and the vast business empire she had just discovered. How would she manage such a large enterprise? The weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. She forced herself to sleep, knowing that the next day would be crucial. She decided to place her trust in David, giving him the authority to speak on her behalf. She hoped everything would proceed smoothly without any major issues. Early the next morning, the stylist David had arranged to ride to help Chanty get ready. To her surprise, the stylist was accompanied by 3 women who were there to pamper her with massages and quick skincare treatments. It was then that Chanty realized David's villa had its own spa. Lorena guided her to the spa for her pampering session before she dressed for the event. As the women attended to her, Chanty was showered with compliments about her beauty and elegance. It was something she had grown accustomed to, especially from people meeting her for the first time. The spa session relaxed her deeply, bringing back memories of visiting the spa with her mother when she was still alive. She remembered watching her mother being pampered and feeling a sense of contentment. After the spa treatments, Chanty's hair and makeup were meticulously done. Lorena then retrieved the outfit David had purchased for her, which had been prepared the night before. As Chanty changed into the ensemble, Lorena and the stylist, Brenda, were left speechless by her transformation. Their eyes sparkled with admiration as they took in her appearance. The outfit consisted of a chic tweed skirt that fell just above her knees, paired with a fitted jacket that accentuated her figure. Her legs looked stunning in the outfit, complemented by 2-inch high heels. "Miss Chanty, you look absolutely enchanting. You've become even more beautiful," Lorena exclaimed, her excitement palpable. Brenda, the stylist, couldn't hide her pride either. "I'm so proud of my work today," Brenda said to herself, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. "I did a good job. Let's hope they can focus on the meeting this afternoon and aren't too distracted by your beauty, Miss Chanty," Lorena added with a wink. Chanty smiled at their words. As she stood in front of the mirror, she couldn't help but admire her reflection. The wounds on her skin had healed, highlighting the graceful contours of her body, her legs, hips, and bust. Although she wasn't revealing any cleavage, it was clear she was well endowed. Lorena handed her a handbag that was part of David's purchase. "Miss Chanty, you can handle this day. David will be there for you. He'll take care of everything," Lorena said, sensing Chanty's nervousness about facing the business entities for the first time. David had coached her the previous night on how to introduce herself to the investors. With a deep breath, Chanty felt a wave of determination wash over her. She knew she could rely on David's support. Chanty stepped out of her room, her appearance breathtaking. Dressed in the sophisticated outfit Brenda had selected, she looked every inch the poised young woman ready to face her new responsibilities. Her skirt and jacket ensemble highlighted her elegant figure, and the 2-inch heels added a graceful lift to her stature. As she emerged, the reactions of David, Jake, and Jacob were almost palpable. David, who had seen Chanty's transformation firsthand, felt a swell of pride. He turned to Brenda, who stood nearby with a satisfied smile. "Thank you, Brenda," David said warmly. "You did an excellent job." Brenda beamed, clearly proud of her work. "It wasn't difficult," she admitted. "Chanty is naturally gorgeous." Chanty noticed the lingering gazes of Jake and Jacob. Jake's eyes were filled with a mix of admiration, while Jacob's gaze held an intensity that spoke volumes about his feelings for her. David and Jake, well aware of Jacob's affection for Chanty, exchanged knowing glances but said nothing. Chanty, sensing the tension, decided to address Jacob casually to ease the awkwardness. "Jacob," she said with a warm smile, "I'm glad you're here. It means a lot." Jacob struggled to maintain eye contact, his embarrassment clear, yet he managed a small smile. "I'm glad to be here, Chanty." Meanwhile, Chanty couldn't help but notice Brenda's behavior. Brenda seemed particularly interested in Jacob, making her intentions rather obvious. However, Jacob, his eyes only for Chanty, paid no attention to Brenda's subtle advances. Jake and David, used to women showing interest in Jacob due to his undeniable charisma and striking looks, observed the scene with quiet amusement. Chanty smiled to herself, aware of the silent dynamics at play. The silence between Jacob and Jake grew heavier, a silent war waged through cold stares and averted gazes. David, ever the mediator, had to tap Jacob on the shoulder occasionally to bring him back to the present. Jake, on the other hand, concealed his jealousy and frustration expertly, though his cold eyes betrayed his inner turmoil. They were waiting for Chanty's family lawyer, Marie Salvador, a key figure in the day's proceedings. Brenda, sensing her task was complete, informed David she needed to leave for another appointment. Chanty and David both thanked her, and as Brenda walked away, she cast one last lingering look at Jacob, much to David's amusement. Brenda left with her 3 assistants, their departure leaving a brief lull in the atmosphere. Minutes later, Marie Salvador arrived. Chanty rushed to her, and they embraced warmly, tears welling up in Marie's eyes. "I've missed you so much, Chanty," Marie said, her voice thick with emotion. It's been too long since Don Lorenzo's passing. Chanty smiled, holding back her own tears. I've missed you too, Marie. Thank you for coming. Marie inquired about Chanty's well-being, and Chanty explained how David had been taking care of her. It turned out that Don Lorenzo had introduced David to Marie long ago, entrusting him with Chanty's welfare in case something happened to him. After their heartfelt reunion, Marie began discussing the business matters at hand. She outlined the various projects and investments Don Lorenzo had left behind and explained the significance of the upcoming investor meeting. One particular investor, holding the second largest share in the company, had specifically requested the meeting. As soon as you turn 18, Chanty, Marie said, you'll be able to fully take control of the businesses. But for now, David and I are here to guide you. Chanty absorbed all the information, feeling the weight of her new responsibilities. They briefed her on how to introduce herself to the investors and what to expect during the meeting. Chanty listened intently, her earlier nerves giving way to a growing sense of determination. Marie hugged her once more, offering words of encouragement. You can do this, Chanty. Your father believed in you, and so do we. With the briefing complete, they prepared to leave for the vineyard. Chanty and David rode together in his car, with Lorena joining them. Marie and Jake followed in Jake's car, while Jacob drove separately. The journey to the vineyard was filled with a quiet anticipation. The return to the vineyard. As the cars rolled up the long, winding path to the vineyard, Chanty felt a rush of memories flooding back. The sprawling vines, the golden sunlight bathing the land, and the distant outline of the main building, it all felt like home, a place she had missed dearly. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stepped out of the car, her heart swelling with emotion. She hadn't been back here since her father's death, and the sight of it brought back a cascade of emotions. Arnold, the loyal caretaker of the vineyard, rushed to greet her. His eyes, too, were misty as he enveloped her in a warm embrace. Miss Chanty, it's so good to see you again, he said, his voice choked with emotion. I was so worried about you. Chanty hugged him tightly, her tears flowing freely. Thank you, Arnold, for everything. And thank you for saving Rhonda. Arnold smiled, glancing towards the stables. It was nothing, Miss Chanty. Rhonda is part of this family too. Chanty turned to David, who gave her a reassuring nod. Go ahead, Chanty. See your horse. Jake and Jacob will go with you. Jake and Jacob followed her to the stables. As they approached, Rhonda, Chanty's beloved white horse, lifted its head and neighed in recognition. Chanty's heart leapt at the sight, and she hurried forward, her tears now of joy. She embraced Rhonda, feeling the horse's warmth and familiarity. Jake and Jacob watched, struck by the bond between Chanty and Rhonda. Jacob, in particular, felt a pang of longing as he observed Chanty's gentle interactions with the horse. She really loves that horse, he murmured. Jake nodded, keeping his thoughts to himself. The rivalry between him and Jacob simmered just below the surface, but for now, they were united in their admiration for Chanty. After a few precious moments with Rhonda, Chanty turned back to Arnold. I'll come back after the meeting, she promised, and with that, they made their way to the main building. Upon entering the conference room, Chanty's beauty immediately captured everyone's attention. She was followed by two strikingly handsome men, their presence demanding just as much notice. Chanty Lorenzo, the sole heir of Don Lorenzo, was the proud owner of the vineyard. David prepared her seat at the head of the long table, facing large monitor. All eyes from the investors were on Chanty as she greeted each one personally. Some were familiar faces, while others were new. Jake and Jacob, her vigilant bodyguards, sat on the opposite side, their eyes scanning the room for any potential threats. Their presence was equally notable due to their striking good looks and commanding demeanor. Lorena waited outside the conference room, ready to assist Chanty if needed. David leaned towards Chanty and quietly informed her that they were expecting Miss Clara Maravillas, the second largest shareholder in the company. The name was unfamiliar to Chanty, but Marie mentioned she lived in Europe. As they awaited Miss Maravillas's arrival, Chanty reviewed the documents before her, trying to maintain her composure. Suddenly, David, Jacob, and Jake stiffened, their senses alerting them to a familiar but unwelcome presence, like Mondragon and Vasper Mondragon. Their eyes darted around the room, exchanging silent glances filled with tension. Chanty noticed their reaction, though others in the room remained oblivious. She leaned towards David and asked what was wrong. "Laika is nearby," he whispered. Hearing this, Chanty felt a wave of fear, not for herself but for everyone at the vineyard. She didn't want anyone to get hurt because of Laika. Chanty grabbed David's hand, her grip tight with anxiety. David squeezed her hand reassuringly. Without drawing attention, he discreetly signaled Jake and Jacob to step outside and locate Laika. Before they could move, the door to the conference room opened, and a woman entered. She was wearing a red dress that accentuated her stunning figure and beauty. David and the others were shocked and stood alert, while Marie was puzzled by their reaction. Jake and Jacob, always vigilant, were now on high alert. Following the woman was Vasper, in a formal suit paired with a long jacket. His presence was magnetic, drawing every eye in the room. Chanty felt a mix of joy and nervousness upon seeing Vasper. Despite the tension, she couldn't hide her happiness at seeing the man who held her heart. Vasper's gaze locked onto Chanty, filled with an intense emotion that made her feel as though time had stopped. His eyes were full of seriousness and wary, mirroring her own feelings. If they were alone, she would have run to him, embraced him, and poured out all her pent-up emotions. But she restrained herself, aware of the investors and her bodyguards. Chanty's thoughts swirled with confusion. Why was Vasper here? Who was the woman with him? She felt a pang of jealousy she couldn't quite understand. Vasper's eyes never left hers, and Chanty wanted to signal him to be more discreet. Jake and Jacob's expressions were unreadable, but Chanty sensed a deep tension between them and Vasper. Jacob's look carried jealousy and anger, but they maintained normal behavior since many people were watching. The woman began greeting the investors, her demeanor calm and composed. She approached Chanty and David, causing Jake and Jacob to become more alert. Vasper stood close to the woman, his eyes still fixed on Chanty. "In the end, I finally meet you, Miss Don Lorenzo," the woman said with a smile. "This is our first meeting. I am Clara Maravillis, and this is my brother, Vasper." Chanty's jealousy dissipated upon learning that the woman was Vasper's sister. However, a new fear took over. She knew Vasper's sister was responsible for her father's death, the mansion's fire, and the disappearance of their staff and her nanny. Chanty's heart raced, but she maintained her composure, aware of the tense expressions on David and the others. Clara continued, "Nice to meet you, Chanty. Your beauty is unparalleled. Thank you for making time for us investors today." Chanty forced a smile, hiding the turmoil inside her. She looked at Vasper, whose gaze was filled with intensity. "Miss Chanty, meet my brother, Vasper," Clara added. Vasper extended his hand, and Chanty hesitated before shaking it. The touch of his hand sent a jolt of electricity through her. She forced herself to stay composed, aware of the eyes on them. "Nice to meet you, Vasper," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Nice to meet you too, Miss Don Lorenzo," Vasper replied, his voice sending chills down her spine. His grip on her hand lingered, making her heart race even more. She felt a mixture of fear and longing, her emotions in turmoil. David interrupted to start the meeting, and everyone smiled, oblivious to the true tension in the room. Clara maintained her composed demeanor, her eyes occasionally glancing at Jake and Jacob. Chanty's initial jealousy faded, replaced by a deep fear of potential conflict that could harm many people. She knew Laika aka Clara Maravillis was powerful and dangerous, a formidable enemy. David began the proceedings with a formal introduction. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I am pleased to introduce Chanty, who will be stepping into her father's role. Despite her youth, she has shown remarkable maturity and dedication, and I am confident in her ability to lead." Chanty stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Thank you for being here. As many of you know, my father, Don Lorenzo, built this business with passion and dedication. It is an honor for me to continue his legacy. She avoided Vasper's intense gaze. The investors listened intently, their gazes fixed on Chanty. She felt their scrutiny but also their interest and respect. I have always been involved in our vineyard business, but I am now learning about the broader investments my father made. I am committed to ensuring our continued success and am grateful for David's guidance during this transition. David then took over, outlining the agenda and addressing immediate concerns. The room buzzed with detailed presentations and discussions, each segment carefully designed to provide clarity and build confidence among the investors. Chanty participated actively, her initial nerves gradually giving way to confidence as she engaged with the topics, and as much as possible ignoring Vasper's gaze to maintain her composure. Lyca's reading and observing Chanty's every move, amused by her intellect and demeanor. As the meeting continued, Chanty felt the weight of the tension in the room. Lyca's occasional glances at Jake and Jacob hinted at their past encounter. Jacob remained focused, prepared for any trouble Lyca or Vasper might cause. During a break, Chanty excused herself, needing air to clear her mind. Jake and Jacob followed her silently, their eyes alert. Lyca watched Chanty leave, a knowing smile on her lips. David and Lyca exchanged a silent look, their eyes speaking volumes. David's now knew for sure, Lyca's been planning this to meet Chanty for sure. So this is how she meet Don Lorenzo, infiltrating his business affairs, David's thought. Vasper also excused himself, and Lyca let him go. Chanty walked quickly to a private room, her mind racing. She closed the door and sat on the bed, tears streaming down her face as memories of her father flooded back. While looking around the room, the woman responsible for his death was here, and Chanty's anger was uncontrollable. Her body's trembling with the tight fists. Jake and Jacob heard her crying, exchanged glances, and sighed deeply. Vasper suddenly appeared in the room, causing tension between them. "I just want to talk to her," Vasper said. "I don't want any trouble," his intense look for Jake. They were rivals not just in power but also in their love for Chanty. Vasper insisted on speaking with Chanty alone. Knowing they wouldn't agree, he used his teleportation power to enter the room. Chanty was shocked and scared, knowing Jake and Jacob was outside. She stood while glancing at the door. "Vasper," she murmured. And suddenly someone's appeared. Jake also teleported inside, intensifying Chanty's fear. "Jake, it's okay. We're just talking," Chanty said, her eyes pleading with Jake. It took almost a minute before he reluctantly left, his gaze murderous towards Vasper. Alone, Chanty's feelings shifted to joy and security with Vasper. He hugged her tightly, apologizing and professing his love. "I'm so sorry, Chanty. It's already too late. Before I knew she was coming here, so I insisted to come with her." "I'm so sorry," he kept whispering to her ear amidst his tight embrace. Explaining he didn't know the meeting was at the vineyard until it was too late. Chanty continued to cry, embracing him as they kissed passionately. He wiped her tears with his hands while kissing her, their love and longing were evident in their kisses. Her arms wrapped around Vasper's neck, and he held her tightly. Outside, Jake and Jacob were tortured by their feelings. Jake went to a distant part of the vineyard, taking out his anger on a tree until it fell. He felt tortured by his love for Chanty but knew he had to focus on his duty. Returning, Jake saw Jacob's pained expression, understanding his own feelings were mirrored. Lorena arrived, saying the meeting was about to resume. Chanty, regaining her composure, left the room, followed by Jake and Jacob. Back in the conference room, Lyca smiled knowingly at David, aware of the tension. The meeting continued, with Lyca maintaining her composed demeanor. Back in the conference room, Lyca's smile played on her lips, aware of the tension surrounding her. She glanced at Jacob and Jake as they returned, while Vasper resumed his seat next to Lyca. She looked at Vasper suspiciously, sensing Chanty's presence on him but pushed her doubts aside. The meeting continued, the tension as thick as ever, like a volcano ready to erupt. As the meeting reconvened, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Lyca resumed her position, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and challenge. Chanty steeled herself, determined not to let Lyca or her own emotions distract her. David continued with the agenda, addressing the investors with confidence. Laika, however, wasn't done. She stood up, her gaze fixed on Chanty. "I have a proposal," she announced, her voice commanding attention. Everyone turned to look at her, including Chanty, who felt a chill run down her spine. "I propose a partnership," Clara continued. "A merging of our resources to expand our influence and maximize our profits." The room buzzed with murmurs of surprise and interest. Chanty felt a surge of defiance. "And what would you gain from this partnership, Miss Maravillas?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. Laika smiled, a predator's smile. "I would gain what I've always wanted, a share in a legacy built by passion and dedication." Chanty met Laika's gaze, her resolve hardening. "We will consider your proposal," she said, her voice firm. "But rest assured, my father's legacy will be protected." Laika's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with challenge. "I look forward to your decision." The meeting continued, the tension between Chanty and Laika simmering beneath the surface. Chanty felt Vasper's eyes on her, a constant reminder of the complicated emotions she had to navigate. But she remained focused, determined to honor her father's legacy and prove herself capable. As the discussions continued, Laika, standing up. "As the second largest shareholder of Don Lorenzo's, I have some critical points and demands to discuss regarding the future of our company. I also have serious concerns about Chanty, our new owner, and her ability to manage the company given her age." Chanty, eyes widening, a look of shock crossing her face. "Miss Clara," unable to finish her sentence upon seeing Vasper's intent gaze towards Laika. Vasper, frowning, his eyes narrowing at Laika. "What? What are you playing at?" whispered to Laika. But Laika heard nothing. Ignoring Vasper's glare. Mr. Johnson, another investor, leaning forward, intrigued. "Go ahead, Miss Maravillas. We're all ears." Laika, ignoring Chanty's reaction, her tone firm. "Firstly, I want to emphasize the importance of transparency in our financial reporting. We've had some discrepancies in the past quarters that have raised eyebrows. I propose a third-party audit to ensure everything is in order and to rebuild any lost trust with our shareholders." Ms. Patel, an investor, nodding in agreement. "That's a valid point. Transparency is crucial for maintaining investor confidence." Jake and Jacob, glancing at Chanty with concern. Laika, "Secondly, our R&D department needs a significant boost in funding. We've seen how technological advancements can catapult our competitors ahead. Investing in innovative technologies and expanding our research capabilities is non-negotiable if we want to stay ahead in the market." Mr. Lee, an investor, "Can you provide a specific figure for this proposed increase in R&D funding?" Laika, "I suggest a 20% increase in the current budget. This will allow us to not only explore new avenues but also to improve our existing products, ensuring we remain competitive." Mr. Gregory, looking skeptically at Clara. "That's a substantial increase. Do you have any particular projects in mind?" Miss Maravillas, "Yes, our AI-driven analytics platform shows immense potential. With additional resources, we can enhance its capabilities and secure a larger market share." Mr. Johnson, "What other demands do you have, Miss Clara?" Laika, "We need to improve our sustainability initiatives. Consumers are becoming increasingly eco-conscious, and our current efforts are not sufficient. I propose we set clear, measurable sustainability goals and report on our progress quarterly." Ms. Patel, "That aligns with global trends and could improve our brand image significantly." Laika, "Lastly, we need a more aggressive marketing strategy. Our competitors are outpacing us in brand recognition. I recommend a 15% increase in our marketing budget, focusing on digital marketing and influencer partnerships." Mr. Lee, "Are you confident this will yield a significant return on investment?" Laika, "Absolutely. With a more prominent presence, we can attract new customers and retain existing ones more effectively. Our products are top-notch, we just need to ensure the market knows it." Mr. Johnson, looking around the table. "Miss Clara, your points are well taken. But it seems you're leading to something more. Are you suggesting a change in our leadership structure?" David, now sensing something. Laika, nodding, her gaze fixed on Chanty. "Precisely. I have serious concerns about Shanta's ability to manage the company at her age. While she is nearly 18, this is a critical period for our company, and experienced leadership is paramount. I propose that I take on the position of Chief Strategy Officer to directly oversee these critical initiatives and ensure we are on the right path. Chanty, voice trembling, trying to stay composed. Miss Clara, I can handle this. I've been preparing for this role my entire life. Vasper, clenching his fists, standing up. Clara, this is enough. Chanty deserves a chance. She's capable, and we know it. Shantas became more nervous by Vasper's reaction, Laika's glare at Vasper. Marie, leaning forward, addressing the room. If I may, Miss Clara, Chanty has been groomed for this role from a young age. She has demonstrated remarkable intelligence and dedication. With the proper support and training, I am confident she can excel as the leader of Don Lorenzo's. David, standing up with confidence, I second that. Chanty has been mentored by some of the best in the business. Like me, she understands the company's values and vision. While she may be young, her potential is undeniable. With a solid team around her, she will thrive. Mr. Santos, I think we should give Chanty a fair chance. She's shown she can rise to the challenge. Ms. Green, that's a bold move. Miss Clara, how do you envision this transition happening? Laika, coldly, her eyes not leaving Chanty, I propose a vote among the shareholders. If the majority agree, we can begin the transition immediately. Chanty can retain her ownership, but I believe my increased involvement will bring substantial benefits to Don Lorenzo's. Vasper, voice rising with emotion, you're making a mistake. Chanty can do this. She just needs our support, not a power grab, whispering the last words only Laika can hear. Laika's intense glare to Vasper's reaction resulted in a more intense atmosphere. Marie, we should also consider the message this sends to our stakeholders. Showing faith in young leadership can be very positive, highlighting our commitment to innovation and fresh perspectives. Ms. Patel, this could bring a new perspective and drive to our leadership team. I support this proposal. Mr. Johnson, looking around the table, shall we put Miss Clara's proposal to a vote? Investors raise their hands in agreement, showing a majority in favor of Clara's demands. Shanta's eyes fill with tears, and Vasper looks furious and heartbroken. The meeting concludes with a renewed sense of direction and purpose for Clara, with Clara set to take on a more influential role within the company, providing guidance and support to the young owner, Chanty, under the careful watch and support of David and Marie. Clara, however, remains unmoved, focused solely on gaining the majority and steering the company as she sees fit. The meeting room remains tense after the vote. Chanty, visibly shaken, tries to maintain her composure as investors begin to gather their belongings. David and Marie move to comfort her. Vasper, seething with restrained emotions, watches closely, while Jake and Jacob remain alert, wary of any potential conflicts. David, placing a reassuring hand on Shanta's shoulder, Chanty, you've shown incredible strength today. Remember, we are here for you, and you have our full support. Marie, gently, offering a warm smile, he's right, Chanty. You've got what it takes. This is just a hurdle, and we'll get through it together. Chanty, taking a deep breath, her voice steadying, thank you, both of you. David, standing up, addressing the room, thank you, everyone, for your participation today. Despite the tensions, it's clear we all want what's best for Don Lorenzo's. Let's remain focused and professional as we move forward. Also, I want to remind everyone about the dinner tonight at the hotel. I hope to see you all there. Mr. Johnson, agreed. Let's ensure we keep the company's best interests at heart. Before we adjourn completely, I'd like to request that Clara stays behind for a brief discussion. David added. Laika, staring at David, very well, but let's not forget, we have a company to steer, and time is of the essence. Chanty, standing, her voice polite but firm, if you'll excuse me, I have some personal matters to attend to. Vasper, clenching his jaw, trying to keep his emotions in check, I'll be outside. Jake, exchanging a glance with Jacob, both subtly positioning themselves near the door. The room begins to empty as investors leave, casting glances at the remaining individuals. Marie stays close to Chanty, continuing to offer her support. Vasper lingers, his eyes never leaving Chanty, but he remains silent, not wanting to reveal his feelings in front of Laika. Marie, whispering to Chanty, remember, you're stronger than you think. We believe in you. Chanty, nodding, her voice a little firmer, thank you, Marie. I won't forget that. David, waiting until the room is mostly empty, then turning to Laika, Laika, we need to discuss the next steps and how we can best support Chanty in her role. This isn't just about control, it's about the future of Don Lorenzo's. Laika, crossing her arms, her expression unyielding, support is one thing, David, but ensuring the company is in capable hands is another. I'll stay for the discussion, but my stance remains unchanged. Chanty, Marie, and the remaining investors leave the room, Chanty's turmoil visible in her eyes. Vasper watches her go, his protective instincts flaring, but he stays silent for now. David, taking a seat, motioning for Laika to do the same. Laika, I need to understand your vision. It appears you're aiming for a more significant control over the company's management. What exactly are you planning? Laika, sitting down, her eyes cold. It's simple, David. The company needs strong, decisive leadership. Chanty's too young, too inexperienced. If I don't get what I want, the entire vineyard operation and the rest of businesses will become a nightmare. You know I have the influence to make that happen. David, clenching his fists, struggling to keep his composure, are you really willing to jeopardize everything we've built for the sake of your ambition? This isn't just business, Laika. It's a hostile takeover. David stood up from his chair. Now I understand, he said. So this is what you did to cross paths with Don Lorenzo? After what you did to him and burning down his mansion, you still came back here? And you're not content, you want to take full control of the company? You deserve to rot in prison, Laika. I mean, Miss Clara Maravillas, David's voice carried a tone of insult. Laika responded with a flirtatious smile. She moved closer to David, leaving no space between them. David gave her a piercing look, but he remained alert to her every move. David, Laika said as she grabbed his necktie, playing with it between her delicate fingers. If you can put me in prison, do it, she challenged. Her lips brushed against David's, but he managed to stay calm. You know what will happen if I don't get what I want, David. This entire vineyard will become a literal hell, along with everyone here. How many workers are there? Especially during harvest and processing days? Laika's eyes were serious, locked onto David's. They stared at each other for several seconds. David's anger was evident, his teeth clenched, but he maintained his professionalism. You're lucky for now, David, Laika continued. I've chosen to be professional. How long can you keep Chanty hidden and protected? She's ours, and I'll take what's meant for us. She's destined for our family. For my father. You can't protect her forever. David's anger grew as he stared at Laika. The tension in the room was immeasurable, but David focused on ensuring there were no casualties. He wanted the event to end peacefully, without any harm to the investors, some of whom had come from other countries. Consider this a privilege on your part, Laika said, maintaining her professional demeanor. I'm being professional to meet Chanty properly. You're so naive, David. With that, Laika distanced herself from David and returned to her seat, resuming her facade of professionalism. Laika, leaning in, her voice low and menacing, call it what you will, David. But I won't back down. And if you cross me, I promise you, it will be the vineyard's demise, literally, she added with emphasis. David's face reddens with anger, feeling as if he is being held hostage by Laika's threats. He takes a deep breath, trying to remain professional. Your threats won't go unnoticed, Laika. There are limits to what you can do without consequences. Laika, smirking, you'd be surprised at what I can achieve, David. Now, if there's nothing else, I have preparations to make. Laika exits the room, leaving David seething with anger. As he composes himself, he thinks about the evening's dinner and the potential fallout from Laika's actions. The garage where the investors' cars are parked. The tension from the meeting carries over as Vasper and Laika confront each other near their cars. Vasper, angrily, Laika, what the hell was that? You're pushing Chanty to the edge. This isn't leadership, it's a vendetta. Laika, eyes narrowing, watch your tone, Vasper. Shanty's not fit to run the company, and you know it. I'm doing what's necessary. Vasper, voice rising, what's necessary? You're tearing us apart from the inside. Chanty has the potential to lead, and you're too blinded by your own ambition to see it. And one more thing, brother. What's this? Concerned about Chanty? Laika asked, raising an eyebrow. She looked at Vasper with a deep, judging stare. Maybe from now on, I should keep an eye on you too, huh? Am I right to doubt you? Do you even know what you're doing? Laika added, her tone warning. The only thing that binds our family is loyalty. Without it, we have no family. There's no place for betrayal in our family, Vasper. Don't forget that. I'm warning you, choose your side carefully. Even though our father chose you as the heir, you have no place in this family if you choose betrayal. Death is the punishment for betrayal in this family. Be careful. Remember, Chanty is needed by our father. Alexander Mondragon can't wait to see her. One of us needs to bring her to him as soon as possible. The sooner, the better, before she gets a boyfriend and loses her virginity. I can smell her purity. If someone else takes her virginity, consider her dead. Our father himself will take her life, and we will face his wrath. Do you want that to happen? Do your job. Don't add drama as if you were one of them. Don't overdo your professionalism today. Tomorrow, we're back to normal. Remember, we are the Mondragons. We rule this world, no one else, Laika said, her tone sharp and serious as she stared intensely at her brother. Her gaze was piercing, but Vasper matched it. They stared each other down, their eyes conveying their feelings. Laika was the first to look away. Vasper restrained himself from punching Laika's car, his fists trembling with anger. Laika, stepping closer, her voice icy, be careful who you side with, Vasper. Your misplaced loyalty might just be the cause of someone's downfall. Jake and Jacob, nearby, hear the argument. They exchange worried glances, aware of the potential for conflict. Laika, noticing Jacob and Jake, a smirk playing on her lips as she turns to Jacob, I didn't realize we had an audience. You always had a knack for being in the right place at the right time, Jacob. Jacob, coolly, just doing my job, Laika. Making sure everything stays professional. Laika, teasingly, professional, huh? Maybe we should discuss that over dinner tonight. Jacob maintains his composure, while Laika's flirtation adds another layer of tension. Vasper, still furious, watches his sister with a mixture of anger and disappointment. Vasper, restraining his anger, go ahead, Laika. Laika, turning away, her voice still cold, we'll see about that. Now, if you'll excuse me. Glancing at Jake and Jacob with sardonic smile. Laika strides towards her car, leaving Vasper fuming. Jake and Jacob remain vigilant, aware of the delicate balance they must maintain. Vasper, holding back his emotions, lets Laika leave first, watching her car drive away with a mixture of frustration and sorrow, thinking of Chanty. Vasper stands alone for a moment. Vasper stands firm in the garage, refusing to leave. Jake and Jacob watch him closely, their expressions wary. Vasper, voice firm, I need to talk to Chanty. I'm not leaving until I do. Jake, stepping forward, trying to remain calm, Vasper, it's best if you go home. This isn't the time or place, his glare is intense. Vasper, his eyes flashing with determination. You can either let me talk to her, or I'll use my power to get to her. I don't want any trouble today, but I won't leave without seeing Chanty. Jacob, tense, trying to defuse the situation, Vasper, we're just looking out for Chanty. She's been through a lot today. Vasper, taking a step closer, his voice low and intense, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to see her, to talk to her. If you get in my way, things might get messy. Jacob's patience was hanging by a thread, barely keeping himself from punching Vasper in the face. God knows how much he wanted to smash Vasper's face out of sheer anger, but he still managed to restrain himself. It was part of their professional demeanor at work, even though he admitted his anger towards Vasper was personal. "Vasper, do you know how much I want to bury my fist in your face?" Jacob said casually, his face relaxed. Vasper just smiled at Jacob's words, but his eyes were sharp, challenging. Jake matched Vasper's stare, but he was more skilled at hiding his emotions. The three of them appeared to be having a normal conversation, but they were actually brimming with hostility. The cars behind them were driving away, unaware of the tension between the three. "Jacob, just say the place where we can meet so you can unleash your anger on me." "I won't refuse," Vasper taunted. Jacob's anger flared, but Jake quickly patted Jacob's chest firmly. Jake knew where the conversation was heading and wanted to avoid it. He understood that Jacob's reaction was driven by jealousy towards Vasper, not by anything else. "Okay, Vasper, just a moment." "Talk to Chanty, just talk," Jake emphasized. "No more, no less," he added. Vasper didn't listen any further and abruptly turned his back on the two, irritating Jake. But they had to maintain the peace, so they followed Vasper towards Chanty's private room. "If I could put a hole in his head right now, I would," Jake muttered, and Jacob heard him. They shared the same thoughts. Inside Chanty's private room. Chanty is seated, lost in thought, when there's a knock at the door. She looks up, surprised as Vasper enters. Chanty, standing up, her eyes widening. Vasper, closing the door behind him, his eyes locking onto hers. "I couldn't leave without talking to you. Chanty, I need you to know that I'm on your side. Always." Chanty, taking a step closer, her voice trembling. "Vasper, it was a lot. I don't know what to do." Vasper, moving closer, his voice softening. "You don't have to do it alone. I'm here for you, Chanty. Whatever happens, I'm here." The tension in the room thickens as Vasper reaches out, gently taking Chanty's hand. The connection between them is palpable, electric. Her eyes filling with tears. "Thank you, Vasper." Pulling her into an embrace, his voice husky. "You don't have to find out. I'm not going anywhere." Their embrace deepens, the world outside fading away. Vasper gently lifts Chanty's chin, their eyes meeting in an intense, lingering gaze. Her voice barely a whisper. "Vasper." His lips brushing hers. "Chanty, I." Their kiss is slow, tender, but filled with a growing intensity. The room feels charged with the weight of their emotions, a mix of desperation and undeniable attraction. Outside the room, Jake and Jacob stand guard, their expressions tense. They can hear the muffled voices. David arrived and instructed Jake to take Chanty back to the beach mansion immediately. He needed to handle the after-dinner arrangements at the hotel. David sighed, glancing at the door of the room, listening to what was happening inside. He nodded at Jake and Jacob, signaling them to stay alert, and then walked away. He left Lorena to accompany Chanty back to Jake's mansion. Lorena nodded and waited in the building's lobby for Chanty. Meanwhile, David heads to the evening dinner at the hotel, feeling uneasy about leaving Chanty behind. He knows Vasper is with her, but he can't shake the feeling of alarm. Back in Chanty's room, the kiss ends but the intimacy remains. Chanty leans her forehead against Vasper's, both of them breathing heavily, their emotions raw. "What are we going to do, Vasper?" she asked softly. He's holding her close. "We're going to fight. Together. No matter what it takes."